Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today has to do with Facebook and LinkedIn and the fact that God can use anything to pull people together when He's trying to inspire people to get together and become friends. I have a lot of friends on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I post a lot of things about my books and my lectures, etc. And one day, while I was on Facebook and LinkedIn, I got a suggested person that I should look into as a possible connection, because Facebook and LinkedIn checks my profile and other people's profiles. And I was intrigued because the person that they were suggesting that I contact showed that they had 777 followers at this precise moment. Now that number changes all the time during the day as people join and become friends, or as they leave each other if they discontinue being friends. So at that precise moment, when it was recommended for me, I noticed that this person being recommended had 777 followers that were friends of theirs. So that impressed me, because that number is God's number. 3 sevens indicates God's power, permission, and participation. So it was like God was knocking on my head saying, Tony, here's a person I want you to contact. So I did, and we wrote back and forth a couple of times. Turned out they were starting some things in the movie industry or the Broadway industry, and they were beginning that, beside the fact that they had a couple of other businesses they were very successful in. And that excited me, because I had just recently, like within the last 2 days, been communicating with another friend of mine who has a lot of experience in movies and Broadway productions, etc. So I was able to suggest that they both get together and talk about their current situations, and I think become very helpful. They were about the same age. They had similar backgrounds, similar experiences, and similar educations. And it turned out to be a fantastic connection. And I bring it up today because God inspired me, and I think if you can read between the lines, I got Facebook, LinkedIn sent me a message, but when I saw the 3 sevens, I really saw it as coming from God. So it gave me pause. It helped me to think, well, maybe God wants me to do something about this, because I saw the 3 sevens. And sure enough, I got inspired to introduce these two people to each other, and it's working out really well. Our next coincidence miracle happened at the gas station again. As some of you know from past stories and past shows, when I'm pumping gas at the gas station, I often get inspired to hand a card to people in the other gas bays pumping their gas. I just briefly tell them I wrote a book about my life story, and can I just give you a card? And most people accept them gladly. So I handed out a card this one particular day because I got inspired by God to do it. Sometimes I don't get inspired to do that, so God knows who He wants me to hand cards to, because sometimes He inspires me to hand them out and sometimes He does not. This particular person I handed a card to, they were in a bay on the other side. I had to walk over 2 other bays to give them the card. And when they finished pumping gas, they came over to me and they said, look, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions if I can. And what he explained to me was that he's been reading the Bible for many years. He lives his life by following what the Bible teaches him. And he feels he's doing well, and he sees coincidence miracles in his life as well. And so he was stressing to me that he didn't think that he needed a religion, and there's so many of them, because there's been so many conflicts over the years that when people disagree about their religion, they wind up starting another one. And he's right about that. There's like 41,000 religions now on the planet Earth, Christian religions, 41,000, because every time people argue and disagree, they start another church. There are, I think, something like 8 basic main Christian religions. They're all well known. They have, very large buildings in every city. You'll find about 8 different religions that are practically in every city in the United States. So you can find a very large religion very easy just by driving through town and looking for large church buildings. And they've been around, I think, certainly they've been around for at least 500 years in history. And a couple of them have been around for over that. And the first Christian religion has been around now for well over 2,000 years, because Jesus came from heaven, was born as a baby. He was a spirit in heaven, and he came down as a man. And that was 2,000 years ago, and he started his church, the Christian church. And a lot of arguments over the years have caused people to start their own Christian churches, and that's why right now there's 41,000 of them. But anyway, getting back to this man's particular point, he was pointing out, as many people do, if you keep talking to God and ask God what to do and you read the Bible, you can follow what He tells you. I told him that I've taught Sunday school for 45 years and I don't preach religions. I don't tell people which religion to belong to. I've come to learn over the years, if you become God's friend, if you make your ambition and your effort to be God's friend, He will inspire you and He will guide you on which religion to be a part of at what particular time in your life. You may need a different religion today than you'll need 6 years from now. I don't know. But my point is, if you make God your friend, He will guide you and direct you into which religion. But I did point out to him, and I'd like to mention to the radio audience, when you don't participate in a religion, you lose something. And certainly the thing you lose is what the major religions have debated and talked about. Let's just take the main 8 or 9 main religions I mentioned earlier. Over the years, they've argued, debated, and those debates and arguments have caused people to settle on some knowledge. The debates prove or disprove certain things, and so the people now, because of the arguments in history, let's say over the last 600 years, people now settle down and decide what's right and wrong for them, you see. So you lose that when you're all by yourself in your own religion and you're just reading the Bible and, following whatever guide inspires you, because you become like a new religion all by yourself, and you don't know what all the other religions have debated and argued and settled on. So you lose out on the benefit of years of experience of people proving that they were right about many, many things. So that's the thing you really get from religion. So you should, become God's friend, read the Bible, and then ask God to guide you into which religion. And the other thing is, when you pass on from this life, when you die, your family, your children, they need to decide where they should go to get taught the things that maybe you learned and you did not have time to pass on to them. So it's good for families to have religions, so that when the parents die or the grandparents die, at least the family now is still continuing in that same tradition. The other significant thing that I pointed out to him, and I think is valuable for the radio audience too, is there's a place in the Bible where Jesus, something about Jesus is explained. And what it says in the Bible, that when the crowds had left, after Jesus gave his lectures and his sermons and preaching to thousands of people, and he spoke in parables, he spoke in stories so that people could understand the points he was making by the stories that he was telling. The Bible tells us that after the crowds had gone, he would sit with his followers, his close disciples, his close apostles, and he would explain the script. He would explain the parables and the stories to them and answer their questions. So the point that I'm trying to make here that is pretty important, if you just read the Bible, you become like somebody in the crowd, because the Bible says that when the crowds had left after his sermon, Jesus gave his sermon, the crowds left, and then Jesus explained to the apostles and the disciples the real meaning of the lectures he just gave. Now, if you think about that, that means that the story that you read in the Bible, the words that Jesus used to talk to the crowds, that's what you're reading. So what you're getting in the parables, you're getting the same thing that the crowds got. And what you're not getting is you're not getting Jesus's private instruction to you, his private teaching to you. So you're not getting that because that was given to the disciples, apostles, after the crowds had left, and it's not written down in the Bible because it was told to the apostles and disciples. So that means the first church that Jesus started, that first church was fed a lot of these discussions that Jesus gave to his close followers. Let's call them the 12 apostles for simplicity, but there were many more beside the 12. There was something like 120 people following him around most times. So the point is, those 120 people and the 12 apostles, the beginning church, the early church 2,000 years ago, they were getting all of these explanations about what other people were getting in the crowd lectures. And the Bible does not explain what Jesus said in private. So if you join the oldest church, you're getting from the members of the church and in the rules and bylaws and commandments that the churches have assembled, you're getting the benefit of what Jesus lectured privately after the crowds had left. And he was very happy to hear all that, because that's the main reason why you would want to be a member of one of the oldest churches, because the oldest churches still have the same basic teachings that Jesus left people with privately in his private discussions. And St. Paul points that out in the Bible as well, where St. Paul says that he himself has been taught everything he knows by Jesus himself. And then St. Paul went to check everything out with Peter to make sure that Peter, who was a close friend of Jesus, and Paul, who was born after Jesus, had died, that Peter and Paul were still teaching the same things. Paul wanted to make sure that he was following the same path as Peter. So becoming a friend of Jesus and being a close friend of his and reading the Bible on your own is fine, but you should ask Jesus to guide you about which religion to join. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.